So as Elliot said, our transformation and evolution is the April theme, with today being dealing with conditions. And we heard from Vance how we can reframe things. You know, it's really easy to stay in an upset, but like he explained with his wife, why? It wasn't serving her. So one of the things we get to be a part of is actually, I don't know if you knew this, there's about 400 centers for spiritual living throughout the world like this. Most of them are in the United States. We have one in Africa, in Uganda. We have a couple in Europe. We have a couple in Latin America. So it is starting to branch out into more of the worldwide area. And what happens with these monthly themes and with the weekly topics is that they're decided at the beginning of the year by a spiritual director based out of Golden, Colorado. And then ministers from around the world contribute outlines for what the sermon is. So I would like to show you what our spiritual director, whose name is Ken Gordon, if something...
Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon. More on our April themes, basing and outlining our values for Centers for Spiritual Living. And this one is given to us by Dr. Karen Kushner from the Center for Spiritual Living, Princeton. You know, in Science of Mind, one of our primary foundational beliefs is that conditions aren't real. That what is real is the spiritual self, the spiritual soul within each and every one of us, and that the condition is nothing more and nothing less than an effect of what we believe and hold to be true. When we deal with this, when we look at this, and when we talk about dealing with conditions, what we're really talking about is the value of understanding and appreciating our unification, our unity with all of life, and how we transform things by transforming our own being and our own self. Dr. Holmes said in the Love and Law, here's the way to do it. If you're not dealing with conditions, you're dealing with thought, nothing else. He also said, in the Science of Mind, that the possibility of demonstrating does not depend upon environment, condition, location, personality, or opportunity. It depends solely upon our belief and our acceptance and our willingness to comply with the law through which all good comes. For the past 99 years, our teaching has been filled with overwhelming evidence of the power of thought to change condition in our worlds, and every single disease that exists, whether curable or incurable, has had at least one person who has been miraculously healed through prayer alone. George Bendel, on page 52 of his book, Now the Time, writes, "The secret is not so much in what we say as in how convinced we are in the words that we speak that they are true." He illustrates this story with the story about Abraham Lincoln. When he was told to have faith that the Lord was on his side, Abraham Lincoln replied, "I'm not at all concerned about that, for I know that the Lord is always on the side of right. But it is my constant anxiety and prayer that I and this nation may be on the Lord's side." What we find ourselves in a situation when dealing with conditions is we find ourselves being moved towards the need to be able to embrace a truthful faith, a truthful idea of how the world works and what happens with it. We know without question or without hesitation that life itself is a mosaic. We see this in operation all the time. In science, we have learned that every single thing has value no matter what. We look at it and we understand the value of a gnat or a mosquito or an elephant. It's only ourselves that we devalue. We know that we're part of this balance of life, and that when we actually step forward and begin to embrace our own divinity, to embrace our own beauty, to embrace our own light, that the end result must be a manifestation of that beauty and that light in our outer experience. Working on this, we work on the premise that the condition that we're looking at needs to have a different thought and a different idea behind it. Once we move into that sphere, once we move into that thought, once we move into that idea, then we have found a solution to the issues. Up until then, all we're doing is playing with the effect outside of ourselves. Please know that you are loved and that you are honored. God bless you.
Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, so that's Dr. Reverend Ken Gordon, who is our spiritual director. I just love listening to the man. I mean, you can hear his heart just right away. I especially liked when he's talking about the gnat and the mosquito and the elephant, that we see value in them, but we tend to devalue ourselves. And this is where that whole reframing of conditions comes into play. This reminds me actually of a quote by Albert Einstein, very famous quote. "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." So that's where this whole conditions comes into play. That the whole world is made up of a set of conditions. The conditions of poverty, of wealth, of health, of sickness, of relationships, of non-relationships. And each and every condition that presents itself to us in the human being state that we all have gives us a choice to see the divine in this situation or not. And I, for one, try to see the divine as often as I can, and many times I do. Many times I do, but not every. Not every. When I'm finding myself totally overwhelmed with schoolwork, major tests coming up, relationship issues of John and I happening, am I up here at my higher level? And I'm not. I've kind of succumbed to the conditions of today. And like Vance's ex-wife Joyce, she didn't like being angry, so she chose differently. Each and every one of us has that ability to choose differently. And while I loved listening to people like Dr. Reverend Ken Gordon, where my pragmatic mind comes into play was, okay, I got it. It's a condition. It's not real. God is the only thing that's real. I'm okay with that. I can choose differently. Okay, I'm with you so far. Keep going. Tell me how. Don't leave me stuck in my frustration of being caught up in these human conditions. I want to know how. And my inner voice just goes, nya, 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 and my frustration goes higher and higher, and my spirituality goes lower and lower, and I'm just cycling until I stop. And I tell this to myself, Kathy, stop. Just stop. So when I was looking at how I wanted to talk about conditions today, I realized that whole self-talk I give myself of stopping can have some pretty major significance if you take it into an acronym. Stop. Very first thing I need is silence. I need to take time to just be quiet. And I don't hear that inner voice, that still small voice inside when I'm in my stuff. I just don't hear it. So very first thing, silence. Then I recognize that silence isn't enough. Just being quiet, I need to have an amount of time that is put in front of me without boundaries. 10 minutes, okay, fine. I'm going to be quiet for 10 minutes and then it's going to be all better. Well, no, it doesn't work that way either. I need some time that I can really develop what I'm feeling. So time becomes the T in stop. Now, I drive to Santa Rosa about twice a month for classes. Lovely 2-hour drive. I can get silence there. I have my 2 hours there. Is it the opportunity to meditate? Many other drivers on 101 would not like me meditating during that drive. So opportunity has to exist. I have carved out a little space in our home that is my meditation space. And I'll burn incense there. I have my music. It's got nice soft things. There's different spiritual icons all over. There's crystals and rocks and just things that make me feel good. There's a little statue of Ganesha. There's a Buddha over in another area. It's just my space. That becomes my opportunity. So when I'm in that space, I have the silence I have the time, I have the opportunity, and what happens is that I feel the presence. And there's the P of stop. And when I'm feeling that presence, no matter what is going on in my outer conditions, I'm able to reframe them. I'm able to come back to the divine that is me. Because every single condition that we see out here has a divine core. If we say God is equally everywhere present, there is no spot where God is not, then God is in the chairs. It's in the germs and in the disease. It's in the strife and conflict. Everywhere is divine, is divinity. And I just have to open myself wide enough to be able to see that. You know, what we were hearing from Ken Gordon too was thought, thought, thought. That's all it really is thought. And this is what that message is when we want to change those conditions, is change our thinking. And to change our thinking, the way that we do that is by just taking a moment and stopping. And there's a lot of different tools that people have through some of the teachings here. Meditation is one of them. Prayers is another. Helping somebody. Just being in service to your community around you. You know, that's another way that we can start to deepen that presence inside. So there's another quote that Ernest Holmes was talking about, that as we set the intention to preserve in looking at a particular condition with the eyes of the divine until the condition changes. It might take a minute, an hour, a year, or a lifetime. Doesn't matter. Time is eternal. It's our growth and our identification with the one that is the real blessing. Back to that, not about the destination, it's the journey in actually getting there. So I'd like to invite all of you to stop periodically in your life. Find the silence. Take the time. Look for the opportunity and feel the presence. Because when we feel that presence, I can do anything. With God, all things are possible. Is there a little nyit, 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 nyit going on with my husband? I love this man. That's nothing. I don't want to go there. I want to be like Joyce and say, my precious possession, it wasn't intentional. It was a mistake. The traffic, it's like, well, every single one of the people driving in those cars has that spark of divinity in them. And I want the best for them. I honestly, truly do. So the fact that they made a mistake and cut me off, okay, well, that's a really hard stretch. I'll give you that. Sometimes harder than others. But when I'm there, when I'm feeling that presence, it's total compassion to all these conditions that go on. I have a work person that challenges my ability to rise above. And I find that the more I think compassionately about how life must be from her eyes, with all of her negative barbs and jibes and blaming and fault-finding that she is, I would not want to live that life. And even when I'm the recipient of it, and again, you know, I may not do it in the moment, but I'll think about it afterwards, that I can rise in compassion and say, this is not a life that must be happy for her. Let me just think about where she's at rather than where I'm at, and I find myself opening. So I invite you all to think about some of the conditions in your life. What is it that you don't want? What is not serving you anymore? And when you think of that condition, stop. Silence, time, opportunity, and feel the presence. Let us pray. Divine Spirit, the one mind, the one creator, the one sense of all, exists with every single breath that I take. It's this inner divinity within me that reaches out to the inner divinity in every single person in this world, creating a beautiful tapestry where we are all interwoven with each other to create the picture of life. This is what conditions are when they are divine, the beautiful interwovenness of it. I know that I can see this condition of harmony, of beauty, of life, of love inside every single person when I so choose, because it is indeed my choice that makes this my reality. I live in an absolutely beautiful world filled with beautiful people. This is my reality because this is what I choose. And I know that every single person in this world, whether they know it or not, has the exact same choice before them. I know that at some point, everybody will choose peace, will choose harmony, will choose freedom from the limiting conditions that they may see today. This is what I know to be true. This is what fills my heart full with gratitude for the science of mind teachings, for the divine law that is in operation equally everywhere. With my heart filled with this gratitude, I release each and every one of these words that I have spoken into the divine mind. I let go, I let God. And in this release, I invite each and every one of you to join me and anchor these words by saying, and so it is.